Learn Persian with Chai and Conversation. Growing Up Irooni interview with Arian Moayed. I feel like you've been a fixture in our house for the past many months. I'm sure you hear that all the time. But
Funny but true. Yeah.
it's good to finally talk to you. And I've been having a succession withdrawal. I need it so badly. When is it? When is it coming back?
When is Succession coming back? I have no idea, but we
Okay.
start shooting very, very soon.
Okay, I can't wait.
Yeah. So we're gonna shoot, and then there's not much we can really say, Layla Jen. So all we can
Okay.
say right now is it's gonna start shooting soon, and it's gonna be amazing.
Okay, good. Then we'll leave it at that. But I've read a lot of interviews with you, so I'm very excited to do this because I've read a lot of interviews, and you often mention that you're Iranian. You're an Iranian actor, but they kind of brush it off. I feel like you've kind of transcended the Iranian thing. It's not something that comes up as a big part of your interviews. So I'm excited to ask you more about that, about your background, your upbringing, and what led you to do what you're doing today. So let's get right into it.
Please.
Yeah. So where were you born, first of all?
I was born in Tehran in 1980. And let's start there. Do you want me
So
to
the year after the revolution.
Yeah, it's a little bit, I'm sure for many Iranians there might be some similarities here, but I think to jump in like right there in the conversation, it's how these histories go. They're just so, particular and familiar, but also very, how do you describe it? Very specific. And in our scenarios that my mom and my dad were in an arranged marriage at a very young age.
Wow. Okay.
And had 3 kids by the age of 18.
Mm-hmm.
And that
18, which at that time period was like not that common, right?
Very uncommon, yeah.
Right.
And then I was born when my mom was 35.
Oh, wow.
2 brothers and a sister. They're 17, 18, and 20 years older than me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in the midst of the revolution that was happening, what was also happening is that my oldest brother Amir was already studying in the States in the 70s.
Okay. So in some ways you're an only child.
I am, but I'm not, because my brothers and my sister are very a part of my family.
Okay.
They treat me like a young brother.
Okay.
So Amir, my oldest brother, yeah, he was in the 70s. He was in the States in college, and then my other brother, Omid, fought in the Iran-Iraq War for 2 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So then...
And then we got over... we all kind of got over in 1986. And we lived in Dubai for a second and back in Iran and Dubai, that kind of story. And then we moved to Chicago, where my brother was going to school.
Okay.
And then where there are very little Iranians. And we grew up in Chicago. And then the last part of that story is that my sister, Homera, in the midst of those first 6 years in Iran trying to get out, my sister fell in love and got married, and she ended up having to stay until 2003 because the moment we landed, they closed the door.
Wow. Okay. So what did your parents do? What did they do in Iran, and then what did they do in Chicago?
My mom in Iran was basically not basically, it was the hardest job in the world. She was basically at home taking care of the kids. And my dad, even though both my parents had very little education growing up, my dad flipped it all around. And by 30 went to college. And then he ended up actually going about 6 months in college in London at a banking college. And he worked for Banca Melli for about 10 years.
Okay, wow. And then in the United States?
In the United States, it was harder for both my family members to kind of put things together. So my mom became our breadwinner, and she basically was in childcare.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we would have, she would work at a childcare center, Gertrude Nielsen Childcare and Learning Center.
Okay.
And then at home, she would nanny a bunch of kids at home as well.
Wow.
My dad was really trying to make it work. In that we came here. My parents also didn't speak English when we got here. And like I said, education was like that. My dad got it later. My mom never even got through went through it all. And so in a way, I became the translator of the household. And like you said, as an only child, my sister was in Iran. One brother was here. Another brother just got, like, everyone was like scattered. And so
Wow.
immediately my entire life became very Iranian and very as a translator of not just our family, but other families that would be nearby, and really became that person until maybe about 30 minutes ago when my mom my mom needed some help downloading Disney Plus. Layla
Same
Jen
thing. Yeah, same
didn't
thing.
work. Didn't work.
Okay, well, so in 1986, when you moved here, what was your, as you were growing up, you said there's not a lot of Iranian community in Chicago. So what was your relationship with Iranian culture growing up? And did you still speak Persian growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to reiterate, my parents didn't speak English, and they got here in
Right,
their 40s. So with a
right,
completely for the first time trying to figure it out was it would be. I'm 42. My mom was 42 when she came to the States. I'm 42 right now. So like
right,
imagining if I jumped into, let's say, South Korea and charted, I mean, I would not be able to do it.
right,
I know myself.
right.
Um, and so in a way, it was only Iranian culture that we had. Um,
Okay,
and also my parents are huge, like many Iranians, are huge nationalists. They weren't nationalists in the sense that they were Shah believers necessarily, but they were nationalists in the fact that they believed in Iran
right.
and they believe in the culture and the power and the kindness and the smarts of Iranian people and Persian culture. So I not only grew up with that, it's like inside of my every ounce of DNA. Like even in this room I'm sitting in, I can literally show every piece of Iranian piece on every portion of this wall. It's so,
Wow.
to me, the reality of me even sounding the way that I sound
Hmm.
was the little Iranians that were in Chicago and the little Iranian community that was there, including my family, were really scared about being Iranian in the 80s. I mean, I'm not going to house that any other way. That's what it was. It was just
Yeah.
a fear. My brother was a taxi cab driver, and my brother that was in college. They're all very successful. I just also want to say my brother Omid is an anesthesiologist. He fought 2 years in the Iranian
Wow.
War. He
Amazing.
he's actually the dean of anesthesiologists at Howard University.
So your parents got the doctor.
They
Okay,
got a
good. That'll
doctor.
come.
That's why I could
That'll
do
come
this.
up. Yeah, exactly. That's
That's why I
gonna
could
come
do
up
this.
later. Okay.
Yeah. And my other brother is a banker and an entrepreneur and doing well. My sister came in the States and she just became a grandmother, and I became a Hyundai,
Well,
a
Honda,
great uncle.
I haven't even heard that. Okay, we say Doijun, but okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
Hyundai.
Anyway.
That's
So
great.
anyway, all this to say is that Iranian portions of my life, and my parents only spoke Farsi
Right.
um, to this day. I mean, they only speak Farsi. So understanding of it was really a big portion of what was happening. And also the other big thing about it was, like I said, like there was a fear of saying Iran. There was a fear of saying all those things. And I think in Los Angeles, I think maybe many people turned that into Persian. Maybe that had something to do
Right.
with it. But in Chicago, we weren't. I mean, we didn't do that, and so there was a real pressure I felt from our Persian elders that they wanted us to succeed and become as American as possible as
Okay.
soon as possible, which I'm sure is a story that resonates with a lot of immigrant communities.
Right. But that didn't translate to in the house. Like in the house, it sounds like y'all were very Iranian and had like
Very Iranian,
Nowruz and had all that kind of
all
stuff.
of it.
So it wasn't like you were trying to hide it and assimilate in the household.
No, not at all. Not at all. We
Okay.
were
And
in the household. It was Iran town. It was
got it.
Tehran.
Got it.
And on Fridays and Saturdays, almost every Friday or Saturday, the Iranians that were in Chicago would come over to our house, or we go over to their house,
Right.
and
And the food and the mehmuni
food
and
and the
all that.
tarof and the all of it, like every portion of it is embedded in my every being. And I think so much of it translates, even though maybe people don't see it on the exterior, but I think all of my characters are Iranian. I kind of try to make all of my characters Iranian anyway,
Yeah.
just because I feel like there is, I learned. And also one more thing I want to say is that when we came here, we also didn't have a lot of funds. our money was tied up in the retirement system in Iran, in Toman, and
Yeah.
and we had to translate it and bring it over, and then we couldn't bring it over because of the sanction. So
And the exchange rate.
and the exchange rate kept, I mean, half toman Buddha.
It's
They always
amazing.
used to
Yeah.
say, like, back in the day was seven toman to a dollar. Now it's in the tens of thousands, I believe.
Right.
And all this to say is that when we got here, there was also a lack of resources.
Right.
But my family, honestly, luck of the draw, we grew up in a North Chicago area called Andersonville, but we moved to this like rather predominantly rich neighborhood in Northbrook, Illinois. But we lived in the apartment complexes on the other side of the highway with all of the Black, brown, and immigrant families that lived in that neighborhood.
Right.
And so I got another sense of the world through that. And really, I really mean this, my Iranian miduni mehmuni, like the way that they took care of people and was apparent in all of these other, groups of people that were not Iranian. And I witnessed that culturally, which I think is oftentimes not realized as a real kind of beautiful trait of what we have. We always serve it. We always try to serve others in some sort of way.
Right, right. And so then what about your like integrating life? Like how were you in school? And were you like I do feel like you're very Iranian and it comes up all the time and you wear your Ishq shirt during the Marvel premiere and everything. So then was that how you were in school as well? Were you very vocal about being Iranian? Were you how was it?
Not at all.
Okay.
That was not the case for me growing up. There was just too much fear about all of that, to be
Interesting.
honest.
Okay.
There was just a little bit too much. I think my parents, to this day, have this fear that something might happen or they might, even though we're American citizens and all these things, there's just that we grew up with a lot more fear than that, I think.
Yeah,
we went through war, we escaped, we had kind of no funds. We had no family. We have no family here, really.
Right.
We're the only family on my mom and dad's side.
Right.
My uncles, aunts, that's made it in the United States, the only one. And 6 or 7 here, 6 or 7 here. Like, so we were really isolated. So there was a very, whether it was conscious or subconscious, I feel like there was a very big push to really just be careful more than anything else. And then, and many people, I don't know how I feel about that when I say that right now, to be honest with you, because it really kind of breaks my heart slightly. But I also kind of do remember a little bit of a necessity of just be careful out there a little bit. Whether it was real or not real, that's what was in my family. So no, it was only in the household. I mean this also embarrassingly, but truthfully, I can't even remember outside of the community of Salem Walk, which was Black, brown, and immigrants. I can't remember anyone from our schools in the like 15 years that were there that came over to our house. See what I mean? It just was not something that was. And my parents both. My mom worked a ton. She was working 2-3 jobs a week. It was a real, true immigrant upbringing. And there was embarrassment about that. Maybe I'm putting that. I don't want to say that for my mom and my dad. Maybe even for me, just like there's just an embarrassment as a child. And then I remember when Khomeini died. I remember someone saying there was like a gathering, and I remember someone saying something to the effect of still say that you're Iraqi. Someone said
Iraqi.
Because at the time, Iraq was good with the United States.
Yes.
And then a couple of years goes by, and then
I've heard Italian.
Don't say Iraqi.
I've heard Italian. I've not heard Iraqi.
Yeah. Now it's no. Then it went straight Italian all the time. Italian.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, it was a little bit. So in that respect, there wasn't. But I was being brought up with the heart of what is our culture.
Yes.
The beating pulse of what is infectious. And not just to our, group of people, but to family members and other, friends that are not Iranian that come into
Right.
the community, and they're like, I want not only korma sabzi, but I also want a little bit of that kind of, mentality.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so that was the childhood, and
Yeah.
then where bring me to like college, what you majored in. When did you get this idea of doing acting, like with this upbringing?
Like I said, my brothers are much older than me. And
Right.
my oldest brother, who's he has a mortgage bank. He was a mohandes. He was an engineer.
Okay.
He got his degree in engineering. And my other brother was a doctor. So my parents a little bit had bragging rights. And a part of that upbringing was making my family laugh. I love doing that.
Uh-huh.
And then in these, predominantly rich neighborhood, there was so much emphasis on the arts. And I started just going to those things. I was in ESL classes till like fourth grade, and reading was really tough for me. But making people laugh or reading dialogue wasn't.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that led to me being in high school plays and a bunch of them, and like being in backstage a lot. And then I just told my mom and my dad, I just said, I just don't want to do this. I don't want to be a doctor. I'm going to
Okay.
try this thing. And, their eyes got big, and, with a couple of like,
Yeah.
what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And then I went to Indiana University. I didn't get it. That's the other thing. I didn't get into any school where I had to audition. I didn't
Okay.
get into this one of them. And
Wow.
then my mom says, and I'll say a little bit of this in Farsi. She said, "Yani, همه مدرسه‌ها تو رو نمیخوان." I was like, "No, mom. Yeah, they don't want me. یعنی برای هنرپیشگی اصلا نمیخوان تو رو." No, they don't want that. Okay. That
Right.
like, holy shit, my mom's face went, oh my God, I'm going to die. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, but I got to be positive somehow.
Yeah, yeah. So basically to translate, she said none of these schools want you. They don't want you
Yeah.
for
And she was
acting.
really confused by it. And you had to be like,
Right.
no, none of them wanted me at all. And they're like, no, but for acting. They didn't want you for acting. They're like, no, they specifically did not want me for acting. And then I went to Indiana University, and my whole entire life changed. I ended up doing 15 plays there in 4 years. 9/11 happened during that time. I'm going to speed it up so we can get to other things.
Yeah.
9/11 happened during that time. And Tom Ridgely and I, who was my best friend in college and one of my best friends now, he and I were starting to realize, this is so crazy, but in like 2000, we started to realize before 9/11 that theater's job was not about fame and acting and fortune. Theater's job, actually, from our time to the Greeks' times to, is about change, is about helping society change through art. And for some odd reason, our 20-year-old 2000, this is in 2000, we were so addicted to this. 9/11 happened.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
then we just dedicated our entire lives, Layla, and all your listeners, to changing the world through art and art education. And that's kind of how it brought me to New York. And in 2002, we moved to New York City, and we formed Waterwell, which is a nonprofit organization that I co-founded, that is an art and art education company that tackles huge civic-minded questions in like a beautiful artistic form while bringing in community members. And we've been doing that for 20 years now. And so,
Amazing.
and before we get to the acting stuff, I do want to mention this. But the company now is two-pronged, over $1 million. We teach 250 students a year at students a year at the Professional Performing Arts School in Midtown Manhattan. We also are an art production team, in which it's run by the great Lee Sunday Evans as our artistic director, and we do shows that like tackle the questions of today, but without being polemic or without like trying to feed the left or the right anything. Really going into the messy, really going into like what it feels like to like be in the messy side of things. And after 20 years of doing that kind of like civic minded, socially conscious work, we really are, Mizan Betachta is like a real industry leader in this type of form.
Right.
And so I just wanted to say that really, even though the exterior feels very actor heavy, the 90% of my day is based on Waterwell and trying to bring this type of like civic minded art to the world. And luckily, history is bending towards us, not away from us. As those first 10 years, even though the work was really strong and the community building was really strong, huge building in the community of the Iranian community in the tri-state region. And even though all that was strong, it wasn't popular. It was in a popular form. And now that's kind of taken its own shape. And along the way, I just want to say that even though I didn't phrase it like that back in the day, Tom and I didn't phrase it like that. We definitely use the Iranian good thoughts, good words, good deeds in our practices. We would talk about it at 25, 26 years of age of like, that's really a great way of thinking about things. And for those that might not know, that is a Zoroastrian like teaching that was, from the Persian, obviously every one of your.
Yeah, but that's wild. That's actually like the basis of like my work. That's how I think of it as well. Like whenever I started, I was like, okay, I always think of that. It's always going in the back of my head. It's kind of a constant script. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and I use that in not only making decisions on the artistic side at Waterwell or the education side at Waterwell. Today, our class graduates, our senior class graduates. Wow. But I use that in how I pick the art that I want to do.
Right.
And I get, and when I was 25, I'll tell you a fun story about Iran as well. Okay. 25, Waterwell did a show called The Persians, a comedy about war with 5 songs. The Greek author Aeschylus wrote a play called The Persians, which is the oldest play in the modern world. Okay. And we adapted that into this Rat Pack show. And Thursday and Friday nights, Layla, was Persian night. Wow. In which we would teach the audience, sold out audience every night, like swear words. Okay. I got signed. It was so fun. But it was also a play about what the war was at the time. But it was also a play about what Iran has lost. It was also, so like messy, was all of these messy things that was all tackled. In 2005, I got signed by a really big agency. And at that time period, in 2005, the only roles for us were terrorist or victims. Yeah. I don't know when it was, but early on in those conversations with a really high-powered agency, I really kind of set the bar and said, you know what? I'm not doing terrorist roles.
Wow, yeah.
And I'm not doing victim roles. So I really didn't work in film and television. And I just did theater with Waterwell, professional off-Broadway stuff. And that led to me doing a play called The Bengal Tiger at the Baghdad Zoo, which moved to Broadway and starred myself and Robin Williams. Right. And I was nominated for an Tony Award. And I was the first Iranian nominated for a Tony Award. Wow. And at that time period, I was really dedicating all of my life to Waterwell and like really picking art that was or trying to pick art that was really trying to move the needle on who we are as people and what we're supposed to do. And that kind of led to, more and more theater and some film and TV, but not much. Waterwell started kind of blossoming. We started running the school. I started making my own art because no one was buying the movies I was making. So I made my own independent TV show called The Accidental Wolf, which is nominated for a Tony, for an Emmy Award a couple years back. And all this while, and then I did a play called The Humans on Broadway, which won the Tony Award. And then the Succession people came. And the rest is history.
Oh my goodness. Okay,
I just wanted to get to like all of that so we can talk about other things.
No, I love that because it shows like I can now see the clear connection between how you grew up. You saw so much. You were in this world, and then you got to college. You did the acting thing, but you didn't go down paths. Like there wasn't a path for you. Like you didn't have a precedent. There was no one you could look up to.
You only had Shohra.
Right.
You only had Shohra. And I love Shohra more than life. Who doesn't love Shohra? But I'm not a 50 at the time, whatever. Yeah, I'm not an elderly Iranian immigrant.
Yeah.
It's not a career I can resemble.
Right. But you forged your own path. And then through doing the work that you loved and that felt meaningful to you, then that's when all these projects picked up. And all of a sudden you were everywhere.
And also really, I was on the show called Love Life.
Right.
And Sam Boyd, the amazing showrunner of Love Life, he and I talked. I was like, can we make him Iranian? He's like, absolutely. And he listened.
Kian.
Kian, yeah. And same with Succession.
Right.
Jesse and I had this long conversation because he wasn't sure if he was or not. And I was like, make him Iranian. And I told him, like, here are the 4 ways that he could have come to this country and become a
Wow.
billionaire. And we talked about it. And then I said,
Amazing.
I
Okay.
never want to talk about this on this show
Right.
because they just need to like know it and not know it.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly.
Part of where we're at also is you just have to be comfortable with me being in a room and not leading with the fact that you're scared that like the script on my shirt that says Baba June is like scary. You just have to
Right.
like stop. You have to demystify these things for them. And part of it is just being in the space.
And that's exactly what comes across in your interviews when you say, because I'm an Iranian immigrant, this, and they go, okay, so tell me about this. It's in the background of everything that you do, but it's not the central talking point.
Yeah, we're complicated people. We have a
We
lot of
are.
things. You know what I mean? We're very Iranian. Our culture is inside of our DNA and our
Right.
blood, like and we're proud of it. I mean,
Right.
Iranians are really proud of it. But we also love basketball and we love Beyonce's new album coming out.
Right.
And we also, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
we both these things coexist.
So now let's talk about, I have also a series called Raising Nimrunis, and you have 2 Nimrunis. So tell me about like, when did you meet your spouse? Can you tell me her background and then your children and how you guys are raising them, if they are familiar with Iranian culture or what's going on there?
I love this. I have 2. I have Olive June and Ivy Shirin.
Nice.
They're 11 and 13.
Okay.
They both go to Farsi school here in New York City.
Interesting. The Pardis, or
Pardis.
okay.
And they've been going for about 5 or 6 years now. My oldest daughter really understands about 60 or 70% of it,
Okay.
which I'm really thrilled about. It's really, it's not like newspaper stuff.
Right.
Getting her to speak is really, really hard, and getting her to understand that she's making progress in writing is also really, really.
Well, and tell us the background of your spouse as well.
Okay, my wife, her name is Chrissy Shields. She's a Jersey girl.
Okay.
She and I met doing a show at Steppenwolf and called Homebody Cobble, written by the great Tony Kushner. And yeah, we've been together for a long time, and we've had 2. We have an 11 and a 13-year-old.
So she's American.
She's an American Jersey girl, Irish, daughter of a pipe fitter.
Gotcha. Okay, so then they're half Irish American, half Iranian. Okay,
Yeah,
so then
exactly.
your oldest understands about 60%, and then your youngest.
Youngest is less. It's just because when you have 3 in a household, 2 people can do the Farsi. When you have 4, I need another person to like speak. And so her much less, though she understands my mom, whenever my mom says stuff to her, like, she can do all these things, but it's something that we have to, the hope would be that we go to Iran for a bit, or the hope would be that we can go to, spend a summer, or my mom can spend a summer here, something like that, to really immerse them, because I know how it is. I know how like easily it can, like, the road can be slippery.
Right. Well, do you think
because Chrissy is white, she's like a person that I can't rely on to like speak Farsi with. Do you know what I mean? So I need, so what we do is we watch a lot of Iranian movies. We try to, at least.
Okay.
Most of the time they're, I'm like crying,
Yeah.
But we also listen to Iranian music and listen to Iranian audio. We try to like do as much as we can to just immerse them in it and, surround them with it all, because I really think something to be proud of.
Right. And like you said, you have like elements in your room, and do y'all do like Nowruz and all that kind of stuff too?
Nowruz. We do Nowruz, we do Sizadar, we do Charshambe Suri, of course. Right. We do them all. I mean, there's not that many.
Yeah.
Yalda. I mean, that's basically it.
And what do you think about the language? Like, do you think it's important for them to know it? Is it important to pass it along? Why?
Well, I think, first of all, selfishly, I think as I figure out myself, my relationship with the language, it's, I think it's this is going to sound so conceited, but it's true. I think it's a very beautifully constructed language that I think it actually makes a lot more sense mentally on how words come together And how, so I think internally, I actually think it forms a lot of my own writing of like the simplicity of idea and thought.
Mhm.
And the passfardo,
Uh-huh.
right? 3 syllables, right? How do you say it in English?
The day after tomorrow.
The day after tomorrow. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it's like a lot going on there. And construction wise, passfardo is like great way to use your brain that I think about in a very nerdy way, and I think that my kids can learn from. And I try to like instill in like, look at how simple this thought is.
Right.
One and two is, this is thousands of years that we're passing down.
Mhm.
Thousands of years that are passing down, and as we all know, from college, liberal arts colleges, if we went to one of those, is that languages are just going away, away and away and away, and with the advent of the phone and Google Translate, I mean, they might as well just disappear rather quickly.
Right, right,
And so, why waste all that?
right. And I want to say, the phrase that you're saying, like the care daranik, gufdaranik, pendaranik.
Hmm.
There are some words like that, like you can translate it as like say good things, do good things.
Yeah.
But then that word neek to me is like good is kind of in a way like judgmental. You know what I mean? It's like
It's
there's
got an opinion on it.
it has an opinion. Neek does not, and there's no translation for that word. So it's just like I've tried to do it. I'm like, it's say well things. I don't know. Like it's just
Yeah,
there are these words. I
love those
love
words.
exactly love those
I'm,
words.
I'm, I mean, Layla, we're gonna be friends forever because I'm at my upstate place here in New York in the Catskills,
Yeah.
and we call this place Neek.
Ah, wow. Yeah,
I
that's
have
really
goosebumps.
cool.
It's true,
Yeah.
because I believe in that good thoughts, good words, good deeds. That's how I think it's. Again, I try to find the simplest form, and that does it for me. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds, and
Yeah.
and that word Neek is just. Yeah, good doesn't even do. Yeah, good has an opinion on it, like,
It
right?
does. It has a moral judgment.
Yeah, Neek has. Yeah, it's deep. It's just deep.
Yeah, and it's just so short.
Indescribable.
Neek. It's so short.
Yeah.
It's just like a world of meaning behind this short word. So I guess to kind of wrap up, what is your relationship with the Iranian community now?
Yeah, I mean, I have a deep relationship with the Iranian community. Like I because it wasn't available to me,
Mhm.
in Chicago, because there wasn't that many. And I think immigrants understand this as well. Just because there's a bunch of Iranians living in Chicago, that doesn't mean that they're your tribe either.
Right.
You know what I mean by that? Doesn't mean like
Yeah.
you get along.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just like every community.
Be like
we forget that.
Americans just being like, "Oh, you're American."
So we're
Yeah.
best friends now, right?
No. Yeah.
So finding our tribe there was also kind of tricky as well. But my relationship now is we have a bunch of Iranians in New York City that I invite to every party at Waterwell. I try to invite into all of our homes. I try to we all try to get together. The Iranian, the other night, this we had a premiere of a movie that we kind of made at Waterwell called The Courtroom, which is a reenactment of this one woman's deportation case. And we performed we performed it in a play first.
Mhm.
And then we did a movie version of it that was just premiered at Tribeca.
Right.
I'm the writer and producer of it. And along the way, when we were doing the nonprofit, I would go to the Iranian community to help me sponsor parties.
Right.
I would go to the Iranian community to come and see what this type of Iranian art is, even though it's not about an Iranian.
Interesting.
And they would come and recognize that what they were seeing, even though the words and the context were not about Iranian people, but was an Iranian idea,
Right.
is really powerful to me. And that community shows up, and I like to show right back up to them as well. if they want me to. So this premiere night, we had the amazing Shireen Nashat was here,
Oh wow. Okay.
Majan,
Yara was
Shirley.
there. I saw Yara
Yeah.
LMG.
Yeah, Yara was there.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful moment of just all of these Iranian artists being in the room and just like enjoying a piece of an art that was kind of co-created by an Iranian with Iranian upbringing and feeling, but not about Iran necessarily.
Right.
And so I find myself really trying to take that responsibility on. I feel we've been bastardized for so long, and I feel like all these Iranian artists' job, in a way, is to kind of like reintroduce us to the world. What you're doing,
Right.
Chai in conversation. That's what you're doing. You are
Right.
you are showing the world that we can just have some tea and talk.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that our ideas are beautiful and pure and messy and wrong and complicated. You know what I mean? Like it's not. We're not like we're people. We're just
Right.
regular people.
Right.
So I find myself deeply trying to amplify that, even on my social media feeds. When I find Iranians doing something that's really powerful to me, I find it really inspiring. And I think about their obstacles that they went through, some way worse, some way easier. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Like, we're still pushing that narrative forward. So.
Right. And it seems like there's a lot of momentum right now. A lot of it's happening in New York. It's very exciting. I did visit a few weeks ago and I was just like, man, it's like exploding everywhere. I mean, I think we've all been like you, like just quietly working. Like I began this project 11 years ago and it's just like quietly working. And then all of a sudden, like it's just building momentum. Like there's some great energy in the air. So I usually end by asking what your hope is for the diaspora for the future. I think you've kind of answered that, but if there's anything else you want to add to what you've just said.
I hope we live in a world where we can freely go back to our homeland.
Right.
I really hope we can go do that, because
it
means, I know it means a lot to you and it means a lot to me as well.
Right.
And so, and do
taking our kids.
Yeah. So that is one hope that I have.
Right. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. I learned a lot and it's very inspiring. And
you as well. For 11 years, you've been doing this kind of work, and just know that we all appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I look forward to that Succession coming out and everything else you have in the works. I'm sure there's a lot to see. And where do people find out more about you? I know that you have an Instagram page, the Waterwell Theater. Can you tell me?
Yeah, go to waterwell.org. You can see about our nonprofit, what we do on that side. If you believe in the work that we do and you want to be, I say this to everyone, and you never know. If you believe in the work of this kind of change that we're doing and you want to be a part of the team, look us up. Give us an email, info@waterwell.org. We're looking for people that believe in good thoughts, good words, good deeds.
Okay.
Believe in art changing the world.
I'm there. Thank you so much, Arian. Until next time.